Welcome into Prize Picks on 5 here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I mean, this is not Prize Picks on 5. See, I've done too many damn shows today. Welcome to Before Floor, an extension of 5 on the Floor here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsors, Biscayne Bay Brewing, the official beer of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, also in the Miami Marlins. You can find it at FTX Arena at the 100 level and the 300 level. Also at many local restaurants, including our sponsor, Quarterdeck, Winn-Dixie, Publix, and the like. Also, you can find our friend Mark Brown, M-A-R-C, brownpa.com in North Lauderdale. He's the man with a plan. If you need an estate plan, he's the guy to go to, okay? He can handle everything for you. He'll go over all of the forms, make sure it's clear and understandable for you. There's the phone number, 954-566-5678. He's also got a title company right there in-house, so he'll handle all of your real estate needs for you as well. Go to markbrownpa.com. Again, markbrownpa.com, and check him out. Also, check out the 5 Reasons YouTube channel after the game for Post Up 5R. We'll do an episode of 5 on the Floor tonight and more in Pace and Space at halftime. And here's who we got. We got Jonathan Roblicon. You can follow him at 3-Piece Combo. We got Greg Sylvander at Greg Sylvander. Brady Hawk here with me in the arena. Brady Hawk 305. You can follow him there. Let's get to it right away here. Who's in and who's out?
Yeah, the only guy who's out is Caleb Martin, so everybody else is a go. So it's not really about who's in, who's out. It's who's going to be in the game rotationally tonight, because we know the starting lineup, but the bench is going to probably look like Tyler, Depot, Dedmon, and Markieff. So that means, are they going to stretch it out into Gabe and Strus possibly? That's kind of the question. On the other side, no Cade Cunningham for the Pistons.
All right, so again, this is the kind of game that you should win. We do know, though, that the Heat have let some teams hang around. Detroit's played them pretty well. Has played them down to the stretch of games at times, and they've been doing that to other teams also, Greg. So, obviously you want to get guys, you got Oladipo back in, you got Jimmy back in, you want to get some reps here, but also, you want to get some more rest, even as you've got a couple of days off before the next game.
Yeah, I'm not going to do the must-win stuff because that's just absolutely disgusting to talk about at this point in time, but they need this one. Like, it's not a must-win, but it's a need-win, because the more that they stack these up, like, it's just the math. When you're closing down a regular season with 15 games, 14 games as it goes down, like, teams are not going to be able to catch you as long as you get these few games that you need to get, that you're supposed to get. And tonight is one of those, especially with Cade Cunningham out, that the Heat just have to have.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Jonathan, we go through Oladipo minutes. He's been closer to 20 than 15 over the last couple of games, or at least inching up there a little bit. What do we expect tonight?
I think we expect just a little bit more from what we've seen. I think defensively, he's been doing a really good job. The off-ball cutting has been really, really well as well. He's starting to kind of find himself in this offense. The first game we saw him hit a couple threes, so we know the catch-and-shoot ability is there. I think he's just going to start getting a little more comfortable, and having that entire bench lineup is just something that, we really haven't had too many times all year, especially with Keith coming back. Like, that's the first time we've had in about 6 months. So having Keith back, having Oladipo back, we're going to have a full bench lineup. Like, I'm pretty excited to see what a Tyler Hero Oladipo backcourt does with kind of like a full back, a full bench front court. Sorry about that. But I'm excited to see just how that full bench lineup works. And I think the chemistry between the starting lineup is going to have to get better, but also the bench is going to have to start developing some of that chemistry with Oladipo and Keith there as well. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, Brady, let's get to that specifically. The chemistry between Hero and Oladipo on offense. What do you want to see?
I think you want to see Tyler Hero be Tyler Hero, which we were saying before that about like maybe them splitting reps. But what we're seeing from Tyler Hero on the ball right now, like, he's their primary scorer. And I think they know that Oladipo is going to play off of him. I found it interesting, that first game where he kept talking about Tyler and his relationship off the floor, like how they were so close that I don't think he'll have a problem deferring to Tyler Hero when they're on the floor together. Jonathan mentioned the off-ball cuts. I think they're going to use him as a movement guy. I think that some of his minutes, at least the first 2 games, were a little bit stagnant, that it was a lot of standing around. The more they start moving him around and putting him as that movement piece, I think everything will come together. But it's just about Tyler being Tyler at all times and not deferring and trying to, change everything up, because that's kind of the key to everything offensively.
You muted, I think.
2.5 up now on Milwaukee, Greg. Philadelphia with a loss last night. I feel like we're waiting sort of to get to the last week and a half of the season and see who they can rest and who they can't rest.
Yeah.
I kind of would like to see more guys get a rest tonight. I was a little bit surprised, but everybody's playing. I don't know that everybody necessarily has to play their normal minutes.
You're right. And on Prize Picks, they finally put Victor Oladipo up on the board for 8.5 points. I went under there. Use the code 5 if you're going to go over or under, and you'll double your initial deposit on Prize Picks. But as I started to think about it after I hit submit on that entry, maybe it's going to be a big enough blowout where Victor Oladipo is going to actually get more reps and get the opportunity to play more. So to your point, I think that this is one, they're a 13.5-point favorite. Get out early. Let's bury this team so that we can get bench reps. Like to Jonathan's point about chemistry off the bench, let those guys play the whole second half.
Yeah, and I also want to see, Jonathan mentioned the starters too. I think there's been times that we've seen the starting unit look really good together, and there's been other times that we haven't. And I don't know that they're necessarily going to be in a closing situation today, but obviously you want to see sort of how that works out. Let's just get to it quickly tonight. I mean, beyond the picks, give me each of you the one thing that's most significant for you tonight. Jonathan, you start. Oh,
you're muted too.
You're muted too. We're in a muted game tonight.
Dang it. But I just think the full chemistry of the team, like, Detroit's a little underhanded. Of course, you want to be wary of every team, and we don't want to play down to our competition. But this is a really good opportunity just to get good reps and start getting, the things that we're going to have to tighten up in the playoffs to start tightening up right now. So I think just getting the chemistry between everybody right, getting the rotations down pat, just getting, everything kind of into that playoff groove. I think this is a perfect kind of practice game, like I said, without putting Detroit down too much or playing down to the competition. I think I just want to see the reps start to get there as far as the chemistry as well as that the rotations kind of start to get a little more playoff-wise.
Brady?
Yeah, I think Greg hinted at it before, talking about Victor Oladipo possibly, if this is a blowout, getting more reps. The reason he played against Houston as his first game was because it's the Houston Rockets, because he can get actual offensive reps and can kind of go that way. When I look at this game tonight, I think this is the perfect type of game to not defer to Tyler Hero, as I just mentioned in the last conversation. Like, this is the game where give the ball to Victor Oladipo, get him some reps, get him some confidence, get him some offensive rhythm of any kind. That I just feel like that should be a focus. He had rest in the last game. I don't think he'll play any type of back-to-backs this season, but it's just trying to get him in that type of mode offensively.
And I'll let you finish here, Greg. What are we looking for?
I want big Tyler and Bam games, and I'll tell you why. I want Tyler to catch Jimmy for the scoring lead off the bench, and he's at 20.9. Jimmy's at 21.4. See, I'm watching the game within the game tonight. And here's the other one. Bam's at 19 points a game. I don't know how much he has to average the rest of the way to get up to 20, but how nice would it be to have 3 20-point scorers on this team? It's within reach. We just need some no-ceiling Bam Adebayo. So that's what I want Bam and Tyler to have big games.
All right, short one here tonight. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We're going to get, again, the post-up 5 hour after the game, pace and space at halftime, 5 on the floor after the game as well. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, that was our quick pregame show, but now let's enjoy a little bit of what Eric Spoelstra said about this particular matchup. Remember, the Miami Heat facing the Detroit Pistons tonight at American Airlines Arena. Brady Hawk is going to be there, along with Ethan Skolnick. So go ahead and, as always, follow them on Twitter for our live coverage tonight. Let's go ahead and listen now to Eric Spoelstra and his opinion about this particular game. What's up, Jose?
My
Alex,
dad,
how you doing?
I went to college with him. So they go way, way, way back. Looking forward to getting him back out in the business soon.
Eric, are there any changes beyond Caleb and the two-way guys being out?
They're all out.
So nothing else, just those 3?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Spo, this is such a unique part of the schedule after what has felt like a gauntlet of games. You have this space of the 2 games and the 8-day stretch. How do you want this to, obviously you want to win the games, but how do you want this period to be processed by your team? Because you do have opportunities to get some rest, get some work on the floor, plus compete.
Yeah, I mentioned that yesterday, that this is an important week for us. We have 2 important games. And this is a fun time of year. Everybody is, watching the games and seeing the movement in the standings. And so we want to approach these games, with the right mindset and urgency and focus. But we also want to take advantage of an opportunity to rest some guys, not during games, but they'll have plenty of days, this week to be able to rest, recover, rejuvenate a little bit, and then we'll have a couple days to practice. We had a really good work day yesterday. And we want to continue to prepare, and also improve. There's some things that we need to clean up, and yesterday was a step in the right direction with that.
Eric, by the way, George did well in surgery, resting comfortably in ICU, in case you had not heard. So
all right, cool.
Thanks for the well wishes.
Yeah.
We'll pass it on for sure. I know you saw Cade earlier this season. Just wondering, as you watch him now, what differences you see in him from when you saw him on the floor earlier this year?
Yeah, I was just having this conversation yesterday, and it was pertaining to Tyler and his growth. And with young players, when they have work ethic and a willingness and openness to be coached, things can happen pretty quickly. There's so many games and opportunities to experience things, and then learn the league, learn what your system is, learn how to impact. And he's a special player, obviously, being a number one pick, but, where he is now to where we played him the first time. I don't remember when that game was. I think early December in Detroit. He looks and feels like a totally different player. And what happens a lot of times with young guys is the confidence level, from those experiences and the work and the learning. And then you have exponential growth that you can't put an analytic to. When a player gains that confidence and things start to click and the game starts to slow down, for you.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Yep, thanks.
All right, that was Eric Spoelstra, coach for the Miami Heat. Now let's go ahead and listen to Dwayne Casey, who is the coach for the Detroit Pistons, talking about tonight's matchup, Miami Heat facing the Detroit Pistons, starting in about almost 45 minutes. So we still have a long way to go. We're going to be here with you guys for most of it. After Dwayne Casey, we're going to go ahead and listen to today's five on the floor.
Going, Cade is out. He's still at the hotel sick, so she's not ready to go. So started feeling bad last night. Came to shoot around, looked like death eating crackers. So
this recent stretch, when we talked a few weeks about how Skelly's hadn't quite looked like himself coming back from the knee, coming back from COVID. He's clearly looking more like himself and kind of falls in line with your guys' improved play as well. How much is just having a more than capable NBA player out there to give rotation minutes and a skill set that you guys have been missing for most of your season?
Talking about Kelly. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, Kelly, and people here in Miami know him. He's smart. He's a very cerebral player. Does a great job of seeing what the defense is doing and understanding how to pick it apart. So he's a huge help for us. He hasn't been himself since he came back. He's had hit and miss, but I thought he was sharp until he got the first two games he was back, and then he got COVID, and we were still fighting to get back to where he was. And but he's still a huge help for our young guys out there on the floor.
Getting Stewart back tonight, Dwayne just kind of helps stabilize that big in that rotation.
It does. Isaiah, I thought he was playing some of his best basketball. And doing the little things, not putting up huge numbers, but just timing on the screening, rotating defensively, switching. And again, the young man out of bio here, is a guy that he plays like. Can switch out, can bring the ball, handle the basketball out front, rebounds, does all the physical things in the paint. So that's a good comparison for Isaiah.
What's that do for Bagley coming off the bench then, getting it back in that role?
Get it back in the role. Well, they have our second unit, give us some length and size. And one thing too, and everyone's made a point of it, it won't run everybody's minutes. I thought the last three games, guys' minutes got up, 6 to 7 more minutes more than they're used to. And that affects you if you're not used to playing those type minutes. So to get our guys back in a normal range where they can still be fresh.
We'll ask you about two guys out of Michigan. One is Livers, who coming back from the foot injury and started making an impact, and the other one is Mike.
Okay. Well, Isaiah, he's really growing up. You know, he's a 4-year guy, or he's a little older. I don't know if it's 4 years, maybe 3 years, but 4 years. And so he's really mature for a basketball player. He's not, you know, he's experienced. He's been well coached in college. I told him that, but he was in one. And so, but he sees things. He made a play the other day where he caught it in the corner, and most young guys would just jacked it up, fired it up before as the defense slowed down. He took his time, pump fake, drove it, and then found Marvin underneath the basket. Just an excellent basketball IQ, and still not a finished product. And he's, you know, every time he comes out, he's getting stronger and stronger from coming back from the surgery.
The other thing I want to ask you about is John Beeline's influence. I watch him, just watching some players work. I was just wondering what his impact is.
He does an excellent job of shooting, working with guys with fundamentals. He's sort of in charge of, we have a team of developmental coaches, and he kind of supervises those guys and gives them tips and oversees and whispers in my ear every once in a while. So he's been a steadying influence, keeping all of us safe. You know, kind of looking over our shoulder a little bit, but he's been great. And, you know, so he's just a good blanket for all of us, for our young coaches to learn from, because we all can learn. So we share a lot of old stories about coaches that our young players don't even know who they are. So,
what have you liked that you've been doing over the last 10, 12 games where you've gotten a good rhythm, particularly it seems like on the offensive end?
Well, John, before everyone got hurt, everyone kind of in and out of the lineup. It was kind of we were connected. I thought we were moving the basketball. We were on a string together defensively, playing off of each other, and more connected. There was a time back in Washington, I think, right before the All-Star break, right before we beat Boston in Boston. We had a long talk. I won't call it a team meeting, but just talking. You know, reassessing our roles, reiterating our roles and what we need. This guy need to do, that guy need to do. And it was a healthy conversation. And after that, I thought we kind of, you know, got a little bit more connected. And next night we went out and beat Boston. And then after the All-Star break, we kind of started going. So then we hit a rash of injuries. But that was the main thing. We was connected offensively, defensively. We're on a string together. And again, you throw Marvin Bagley in there, gives us another element of a lob threat and a guy that can protect the basket a little bit.
Sorry, I was muted too. That was Dwayne Casey talking about tonight's matchup. Alex says, I'm happy Alejandro covers the Heat instead of Inter Miami soccer. Let me tell you something. I've been there in 2 of the 3 games they played this season. And I'm the one recording Austin talking about Inter Miami. So I am covering the team as well. And we will be covering the Marlins on Saturday. I'm waiting for the reply. So we're going to be there covering their game on Saturday. They're facing the Astros there on Jupiter. So let's continue now talking about the Miami Heat. They're facing the Detroit Pistons here in about 35 to 40 minutes. So let's go ahead. We still have a lot of time to share it with you guys. So why not? Let's share with you our 5 on the Floor episode for today, talking a little bit about what could be the path to the NBA Finals for the Miami Heat, and if the Miami Heat is supposed to be going for the first place and the home court advantage, or just depending on what's going on, and have the opportunity to pick their opponents. Here we go.
Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. We're on Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're also on Dash Radio on their Nothing But Net channel every single weeknight at 7 p.m. Check out 5 Reasons YouTube before Floor, an hour before every game. Post up 5 hours as soon as the game ends. Plenty of content during the week on the other teams in town as well. So make sure you are subscribed. Also, 5reasonsports.com. Spell that one out. You will get the latest sports in South Florida without a paywall. And check out the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We mention this one all the time because it's our daily fantasy partner. It's prizepicks.com. Go to prizepicks.com. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. You get your initial deposit match. So you put down $100. They'll give you $100 to play with. You don't have to play it all at once. You play 2, 3, 4, 5 players. You can play different sports if you want to combine, say, NHL with NBA. But just check it out. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E, at prizepicks.com. And now, tonight's episode.
Yeah, 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, Ethan Skolnick back on 5 on the Floor. Make sure you check out our episode about the real season. We talked about that yesterday, Kyle Lowry's comments about sort of prepping himself for that, and he's going to get more aggressive. So we went through which players on the Heat we thought would rise the most in the real season and some of whom might be vulnerable. Today's floor plan, I got Alex Toledo again. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket, and Greg Sylvander. You can follow at Greg Sylvander. And Greg, I'm just going to let you sort of take this because if people were following our off the floor feed, they would have seen this already. But what did you hear just in talking to some people around the organization?
Yeah, I was texting him back and forth today, just getting a pulse check on things. And I thought it to be interesting when I referenced what was going on at the bottom of the playoff bracket and the 7-8 stuff and the play-in. I found it really interesting that this person said that the Heat aren't even really watching what's happening down there. They're not concerned with who ends up in 8 and who ends up in the play-in or anything related to that. They're also not concerned with who ends up at 4 or 5 and who they may see in the second round. Like, they're not factoring that into anything that they're like monitoring in terms of the standings. What they are focused on is that 1 seed. They think that that's very important. And I mean, I guess that's pretty obvious, but that's where their focus is. They want to lock in the 1 seed. They do not care about matchups. I even said, okay, we're going to go Brooklyn first round, Milwaukee second round. They said, if that's how it shakes out and Miami has home court, bring it on. So like, to me, it was an encouraging, text exchange, but also interesting because as you watch what's happening, it's so damn close down there that they may not know who they're going to play until the last day of the season.
Well, and I think what you said about it may seem weird. It may seem weird only to sort of the fans who get obsessed about these kind of things and also who have some doubts about this team, because I think to be concerned about who you're going to play, if you've been one of the top 5 teams in the league, okay, and say you finish first in a very competitive Eastern Conference, which means you're going to have to win at the least, 52, 53 games, okay? If you've done that all year and yet you are worried about who might pop in at the 8 spot, you don't believe in what you have. I mean, it's the same matter with the fans also. And I guess I'll just go to you, Alex. This raises this question leads to the next question, because if you've decided that your goal here is the number 1 seed, okay, there is a bit of a debate that comes in there, because how hard are you going to go for that at the end of the season? So if you're more concerned as just the number 1 seed in the home court, which seems to me like the most valid goal, instead of, okay, sort of manipulating a situation to avoid a team you don't want to play in the first round, well, then how does the fact, Alex, that some of these guys are going to need rest, okay, maybe it's not wise to push some of the minutes. How does that play in here if number 1 seed is everything?
Well, I just think they've kind of been a good team in the regular season despite not having all their pieces. And that's been consistent, whether, despite whatever machination it's been, right? And we saw it a lot early on, whether it's been missing Kyle or missing Bam or missing multiple guys from your best 4 players, missing Jimmy. Like they've had all different types of looks for this team, and every single one has been successful in the sense that they've been solidly over 500. Like none of those teams were even hovering around 500. None of the different versions of those teams. I mean, and I just think like I have enough trust in them right now to get through the end of the season where they're gonna have so many home games. I just think they kind of figure some stuff out other than like what we talked about, crunch time offense, and that's what we're talking about here. But everything else, fundamentally, like the things that we have wanted them to be good at, they've been good at. So I just think it's more about having trust in them to finish the season off, in their eyes, the 1 seed. But of course, you're not going to be worried if you're inside the organization.
And Greg, I guess when you look at another topic we've talked about, which is kind of the history of the soft 1 seed, right? The Heat, having been on the other side of that, know that if you have an overwhelming team, who's in the number 1 spot doesn't matter, right? We saw it during the Big Three era where they eliminated the Bulls, they eliminated the Pacers. I wonder how that plays into this too, because I don't feel like Miami. We know that this is not an overwhelming Heat team. This is not a Big Three, 2012, 2013. As we talked about yesterday, they have a lot of really nice pieces. They can get it from anywhere, but it has to be a collective because they're more 2004 Pistons, more 2014 Spurs than they are some of the Durant, LeBron type teams. But I guess then, I mean, where do you stand on this at the end of the season? Because if you made it the goal, you want to reach your goal, I feel like that's going to push them forward towards it.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. I think that you're right. They're not the overwhelming favorite, but there's a lot of parity in this conference and there's a lot of good teams, but there's no team that I think that they look down at 2, 3, 4 and say, man, like they could pick us off regardless. Like even Milwaukee, coming off of a championship, has their vulnerabilities. And, there's a lot of stats that point to these different things. I think Alex has been researching even some of them as we've been going here in terms of like where teams are ranked and what they're doing. So I think it has a lot to do with that. The Heat recognize that the path of least resistance is to lean into that 24-9 home record that they currently have, which as I'm scanning through the league, I mean, you've got Golden State at 28-7, Phoenix at 29-8. And other than that, like they're literally the best home team on planet Earth right now. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And they're figuring just come through Miami. Also, Heat fans tend to show up for those playoff games on time or relatively on time, at least with like 4 minutes in the first quarter, the arena's filled. So I'm expecting probably the most excited base also in the arena for something like this, because it's been a while, you know what I mean? So I ultimately think that going for the 1 seed is the right move, and it's the right year to do it, because there's being a soft 1 seed, like 1, 2, 3, and 4, there's not much difference in anyway.
Yeah, I know, I get it. It could be a margin, and the margin could be being at home. All right, so we're going to go through, when we come back here, we're going to go through some of those teams at the bottom. Should they be positioning in any way? Is there even a reason to lean? Before we do, I want to tell you about another great sponsor, 5 Reasons Sports Network. This one is local here, as so many of them are. All right, if you are a South Florida property owner with an insurance claim, if you're dealing with water, mold, or fire damage, you got to find a reputable, fully licensed, insured, and certified contractor. You got to check out Water Cleanup of Florida. They're here for you 24 hours a day. When a disaster strikes in your home or business, you need specialized, fast, and reliable services. Water Cleanup of Florida understands the impact and stress that an unexpected disaster may cause. So they'll take you through the entire process. They'll make sure it's painless and hassle-free, and they've got over 60 years of combined experience to do that. So reach out to Michael, Robert, and the rest of the team. You can call Michael at 954-579-0356, 954-579-0356. Water Cleanup. If you've got the schmutz,
they got the guts.
All right, let's have the guts to make some sense of the bottom of the East a little bit, because Greg, as you're talking about them going for the 1 seed, one of the advantages is you technically should play the worst team to make the playoffs. It's not necessarily this year going to be the worst team to make the playoffs. All right. So the possibilities, if the Heat get to 1, they, again, to go over the play-in again, for those who don't necessarily get it, because it hasn't been going on here that long, the 7 plays the 8 for the 7 spot. Okay. The loser of that game plays the winner of the game between the 9 and the 10. The reason this has any significance at all to the Heat, of course,
is who they might play if they were the 1 seed. And if you have a situation where Brooklyn finishes in the 8 or the 7, it's pretty much the same thing. The Heat are vulnerable to playing them in the first round. Okay. In a case of Brooklyn being the 7 seed going in, it would mean a loss in that game against the 8 seed, whoever it may be, Toronto, Cleveland, etc., and then a win against whoever the 9 or 10 would be. Or if they're the 8 seed, it would I'll go the other way. Either way, it's the same thing, right? Okay, so that's essentially what you're looking at, and this is a very reasonable possibility, all right? I know you say, Greg, that they shouldn't fear the Nets at all, and I'll go to you, and then I'll go to Alex right after this. But wouldn't you? I mean, if you had a choice, right? If you had a choice,
yeah. Oh yeah, we're avoiding Brooklyn. Listen, I am the cockiest of cocky Heat fans, but I'm not crazy. Like the best case scenario is Brooklyn moves up to 7 and gives Philadelphia or Milwaukee hell in the first round. And Miami is matched up with a Toronto team. Like, I think that or Cleveland, if Cleveland drops, I mean, Cleveland's 3-7 in their last 10. I don't know what the hell's going on when Jared Allen will be back. So like, that's a weird situation. So it could end up being Cleveland. I like the Toronto or Cleveland matchups better than Brooklyn. But again, like with home court, I don't think that you're going to run from any of them. And I say that not being like, the Homer fan. Like, I just think if you've got the 1 seed and like we said earlier, you've played all year for it and you've been at the top of the conference basically all season, why the hell are you running? But ultimately, give me Cleveland or Toronto if I can have them.
Alex, I saw you, your facial expression there with Greg was talking about avoiding or not avoiding Brooklyn. Explain.
Oh, no, I was just, it's hard not to agree, I like I said before, if I was a part of the organization, I completely get it. I would not be worried about it at all. Like, if you get the Nets, you get the Nets. And it's what happened last season with the Bucks. Like, they did not care, right? I mean, at least I think so. I don't know anything, but that's what it seems like. I think this season, if it happens, it happens. But you got to hope it doesn't, right? Like, you don't want to go against Kevin Durant. Like, you go and you get the 1 seed, and it's not something that is the biggest deal in the world, but it doesn't happen all the time. And usually it's an indicator of a really good team. And look, man, you're going to have to go against a lot of really good teams along the way. Usually in the first round, if you're the 1 seed, you get like the Orlando Magics of the world.
Yeah.
You're going to get Kevin
warm
Durant,
up, right?
Kyrie in the first round. Like, come on. Let's not be too cool. Like, if it happens, it happens. We know that's their mentality, but let's be real about it. You should not want that.
No, you shouldn't. I know obviously that there are going to be some Heat fans who just kind of want to prove a point.
It'll be a fun matchup, and I think that he could win, but you should not want that.
It's a lot more interesting. I mean, the Heat have had some first round series that, on paper I had to sort of make feel important. I remember the Heat playing Charlotte, during the big 3 years. It's like, how am I going to make this? I got Al Jefferson. I got to make interesting. Good luck with that. So I do, as a former journalist, and somebody with, a network here, Heat Nets is the play, because that would be a fascinating week or two. And it's like, if you want to shut people up, that's a good way to do it. But I think ultimately you would rather take a nice little quiet win against the Toronto Raptors team that nobody expected to be anything this year, which lends to this point. And before we get to it, do want to mention one more sponsor here. It's our friends over at Therapist Preferred. Use the code 5RSN for all your premium CBD, whether it's a tincture, the gummies, or the sports cream. You get 25% off at Therapist Preferred. Let's go to it. So let's just say let's just isolate here to Toronto. I think everybody would assume the Heat would like to play Charlotte, or maybe Atlanta, but just isolate to these two. All right. And each of you pick one, unless you're going to pick the same one. Cleveland and Toronto. Who would you rather see?
Cleveland, 100%. Bring their asses on all day.
Alex is going to give a long technical answer on why it's Toronto, right? Or go. Which one is it?
I actually lagged during the question. All I heard was Leif's answer, so I don't know what you asked.
Well, what he said, Cleveland bring their asses on, which was very succinct and to the point and non-strategic. I'm just asking you. The question was, which team would you rather see if you're the one? Cleveland, Toronto.
Alex lagged during the question again. I'm going to answer for him. We want Cleveland, right, hey, look, Alex? Now he's back.
The thing is, the two likeliest, I think, are the Raptors or the Cavs. It's whoever finishes in that 7th spot, right? Because I think the Nets are going to finish in the 8th. Is that how? Is that?
Yeah, most likely. Yes.
Yeah, they're pretty much solidified in 8. It's just about them beating 7 in that playing game.
Yeah, I don't think the Nets. I mean, look, it could happen. I don't think the Nets blow that game. So I'm assuming that the Heat are going to play the Raptors and the Cavs. And like we were talking about before the show, the Cavs without Jared Allen, without Karis LeVert, they haven't been winning as much. And meanwhile, the Raptors have been playing some of the best basketball of the season. So it could very well be the Cavs. And from those two, I would rather play the Cavs. Like I think I have more trust in the Raptors and their playoff experience. Like their 2 best players, I think they have a little bit more there that they can go to when things get tough, other than Garland, the best defensive team there. But like they're 21st in offensive rating for a reason.
James Harden's 2 of 7. That's funny.
You guys were lagging through the entire thing, so I don't know what either of you said. You know what? We're going to close this episode and come back the next day. Thanks to our sponsors. Alex was talking. Greg came back with 2 words, and that was it. I'm not really sure. Alex, make sense of this. Make sure you cut out all my flubs. All right. Therapistford.com. Use the code 5RSN. PrizePicks.com. Use the code 5. And Water Cleanup in Florida. We've got the guts and the schmutz today. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Regional Sports Network.
All right, and that was today's episode of 5 on the Floor. Remember, you can subscribe to Off the Floor, $3.05 only, and they're gonna give you a lot of information. And I'm reading some of you guys' comments here. Who do you rather face, the Cleveland or the Raptors? I'd rather face Cleveland, to be honest. I was there on Friday covering the game, and the Miami Heat looked very, very, very. They're much better than Cleveland, but I mean the couple of times I've seen them play the Raptors this year, it's been all of them. I think they've been close, so I think they rather see the Cleveland Cavaliers. But I don't know. We want to keep learning about your opinions, and please leave your comments here. Give it a thumbs up, give it a like. And remember, we're going to be back on Twitter for Pace and Spaces. And then after the game, the post-up show for your post-game analysis after tonight's matchup between the Miami Heat and the Detroit Pistons. Have a good night. Enjoy the game. Follow Brady Hawk. Follow Ethan Skolnick. Follow at 5 Reason Sports. We're going to be covering the game and leaving you guys or giving you guys a lot of in-game comments. Alex says Fred VanVleet is an issue. Yes, definitely. I think the Raptors team matches up better with the Miami Heat, but we'll have that discussion from here to the end, and let's see what the Miami Heat does. In any case, they're leading the conference right now, and for now, it would be the Nets in the first round if they finish 8th. So have a good night, enjoy the game, and we will see you later here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel.